Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, bringing y'all more than likely my final mock draft for the 2020 off season. I'm gonna give you their basic advantages and disadvantages and how they'll be used on the Redskins team, how I project they'll impact this team in the NFL and all that type of stuff. And I'm also just gonna go pick by pick instead of showing you all of my picks in the beginning. We're just gonna go pick by pick, and then at the very end, I'll recap everything. Alright, so let's get it. Alright, so round one, pick number 2 overall. You already know, I'm taking my boy Chase Young. I'm one of those people that don't want to trade back. I want Chase Young pretty much no matter what. If we're going to trade back, it needs to be like a ridiculous offer. Like, we need the whole thing from somebody. I need like 8 of them first round picks. I mean, I need something ridiculous. But at the same time, even being realistic, the Redskins have said they're willing to trade back, but they haven't done so, more than likely because nobody's offering what they're willing to take to give up on Chase Young. If somebody was offering enough already, it probably would have been done. Plus, it's safer for teams that may trade up for a quarterback like the Dolphins to just trade up to the Lions pick. Or maybe even the Giants. Because the Redskins, Lions, and Giants don't necessarily need quarterbacks. They could take one, but I doubt it for all 3 teams. So whatever team that wants to trade up, especially the Dolphins, might not need to trade up far or at all. They're really just competing against other teams that may trade up. So the Dolphins probably aren't willing to give up as much value as teams like the Redskins are willing to accept. And then also, you don't want to miss out on a perennial all-pro player. He's Hall of Fame bound. He's the safest prospect in this draft. He also has the highest ceiling. I mean, it's just not fair. The only person who arguably has a comparable ceiling is Isaiah Simmons. And I get us an Isaiah Simmons clone later in the draft, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But for Chase Young, I'm just basically saying all of this to say that the Chase Young pick is pretty much locked. At this point, if you're making a mock draft and you're not picking Chase Young, you got to be clickbaiting. I mean, Ron Rivera, even with the recent little interview thing that he just had a couple of days ago, I mean, everything he said concerning the 2nd overall pick alluded to taking Chase Young. Also, Dan Snyder does not meet with players at the combine, ever. Last time he did it was RG3. And that man was willing to trade all of those first round picks to take RG3. With Chase Young, he doesn't even have to do any trades. He just has to sit there and take them. And I know Dan Snyder is not supposed to be meddling that much anymore, but Dan Snyder, Ron Rivera, and Jack Del Rio have all said, one way or another, that they all love Chase Young. And if anybody's shown it, it's Dan Snyder. I mean, Dan Snyder pretty much forced Jay Gruden to take Dwayne Haskins last year, and he didn't even meet with him at the combine. But as far as Chase Young goes, what you get is Nick Bosa right away as a floor, the guy that dominated last year for the 49ers. Chase Young's technique is literally almost to the point of Nick Bosa's already and Joey Bosa's. He definitely has some room to grow there. But literally day one, you're getting Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa without the injuries. That's what's even crazier. That's what makes him the safest prospect. His technique is already there. Definitely has room to improve, but he already has counters. He already has go-to moves. And then he also has like the cleanest injury history possible, which is something Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa don't have at all. And then on top of that, you have this elite freakish athleticism that's comparable to the apex athlete of Isaiah Simmons. So Chase Young's ceiling is also just out of this world. It's almost limitless. We compare him to LT, we compare him to Julius Peppers, we compare him to a bigger Khalil Mack, bigger Von Miller, but at the end of the day, he is Chase Young. And with his ridiculous athleticism that's almost unmatched, he definitely has the potential to be better than most of those guys I named. Not guaranteeing it at all, because, I mean, the company of LT, Julius Peppers, Von Miller, and Khalil Mack, it sounds almost impossible to repeat that. But with his ridiculous athleticism, anything is possible for him. And if you can go and take that player without having to trade away any picks, all you have to do is just sit there and use the pick that you've already been awarded, then you do it. And for those who love box scores and no matter what the traits say, go with the production type of draft analyst guys, Chase Young also had 16.5 sacks last season and he missed 2 games. Literally all he needs to do is just add more moves, needs to incorporate more of a bull rush, more of a stab counter, all kinds of stuff like that. If he can just build the perfect prospect, That's what his ceiling is. He also needs to learn how to stay lower more consistently. He's so used to just dominating people off of just pure athleticism that he doesn't necessarily keep his pads low all of the time. But when he does, it's ridiculous. And he does most of the time, but just, you know, we're being nitpicky here. We want the perfect edge rusher prospect. Viewing him through the lens of possibly being the best edge rusher to ever do it, we need him to get his pads lower. We need him to add more moves. And we also need him to find a way to beat triple teams like he faced in that Clemson game. For those of y'all who keep saying he disappeared in that Clemson game. But finding a guy like this is so rare. I mean, it's just like there's not going to be another Chase Young. There never has been a Chase Young. We can compare him to Julius Peppers, LT, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, all of those people. But even if he may not be better than those guys, which I'm pretty sure he will be as good as, and probably could be better than a lot of those guys, especially with how durable he is. But I'm expecting him to create his own legacy, to set his own bar. I'm expecting him to play a little bit different than all of those guys I just named. Not necessarily better, even though I hope so, but different. There's no exact comp for somebody like this. I mean, the best way to describe it is Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa technique and floor with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney athleticism. It's literally almost like building the perfect edge rusher. But he's as much of a can't miss prospect as you can get in the draft. Like for Ron Rivera, in your first year being the Washington Redskins head coach, if you want to just go ahead and take somebody that you know for a fact will produce, will dominate, will win you some games single-handedly, carry the team on his back a few times, then Chase Young is your guy. You can take him and sleep well. You don't have to worry about injuries. You don't have to worry about, well, will he actually work out? Is he just this athletic guy that we have to teach a lot of technique to? No, he's already the whole package. Of course, he has room to grow because of his athleticism. He'll only get better and better every year. And of course, he has room to grow as far as technique goes. Learning more moves, keeping his pad level lower, and a couple of IQ things. But the motor's there, the being a great guy and a great interviewer is there already. I mean, this literally can be the face of your franchise type of guy. And of course, like I've said every time I've talked about Chase Young, quarterback is the most important position in football. Really the most important position in all of sports. Edge rusher is only second to that. It's the quarterback and the guy that gets the quarterback. I know interior pass rush is starting to truly be appreciated more and more because the pocket collapsing from in front of you is diddly, but edge rusher is still only second to quarterback in the NFL as far as impact goes. Chase Young can literally win us a game. Fourth quarter, 1 minute left, up 1, other team has the ball. Chase Young can literally go and win us that game. There's not many people in NFL history that can just take over a game like that. Also, historically, Ron Rivera, as the head coach for the Panthers, never traded back. And he hit on some really good picks while doing so. Luke Kuechly, Christian McCaffrey, and I know the second overall pick is different from trading back. Also, remember that the Redskins in the 2011 draft had the chance to get J.J. Watt, but traded down and ended up getting Ryan Kerrigan. And Ryan Kerrigan's been really good for us, but he was never J.J. Watt at any point of his career. But he's been more durable, but at the same time, Chase Young brings you Ryan Kerrigan's durability. Wouldn't be surprised if he literally misses no games for several seasons, just like Ryan Kerrigan did until last season. And then also brings a J.J. Watt level of dominance, if not even more, to the Washington Redskins. I mean, like, I literally just don't see how you can just look at Chase Young being there and not take him. Plus, like I said earlier, there's a guy that could be Isaiah Simmons. We'll have to see. I like his potential. But as far as Chase Young goes, there's nobody that might even be like Chase Young in the latter of this draft, or any draft coming up within the next few years. You might find a guy with a lot of athleticism and potential, but they won't have the technique. You might find a guy that has all of the technique, but doesn't have the elite athleticism. You might find a guy with elite athleticism and technique, but then they're not durable. But then they're not 16 games a year durable like Chase Young is. You might find all three of those, but then he's not a high character guy, great interviewer already, face of the franchise type of guy. You might find all of that, and then he might not have a high motor. I mean, you just literally can't miss on this guy. But moving on, in round 3 with the 66th overall pick, I have the Redskins taking tight end Adam Trautman. And this is my favorite tight end in the draft. It's a weak class, struggle class. I mean, we literally can just assume that the 2021 tight end class is going to be better than this one because it's hard not to be. But there's still a few guys in here, and Adam Trautman is definitely one of them. Here's why he's my favorite tight end in the class. Even though he played at a small-time school, Dayton, he projects to be a very impactful player at the NFL level. The only time we've seen him against tough competition was at the Senior Bowl, so we have to see what he can do at the NFL level. But at the Senior Bowl, he dominated. He was one of the biggest bright spots there. I mean, it was Lloyd Cushenberry, Adam Trautman, and Javon Kinlaw. Those were easily 3 of the top performers at the Senior Bowl. He showed that he could truly hang with the big guys against Division I, SEC talent, all of that type of stuff. I mean, it wasn't the best of the best there, but he definitely showed that he can dominate beyond just Dayton level of competition. So I'm expecting him to be great at the NFL level. His combine numbers don't really show it, but on tape, he's actually a pretty explosive athlete. For somebody his size, he has great speed and agility. I mean, he is 6'5", 255 pounds. So he has the size of somebody that can definitely be an inline tight end. And he also has the motor and the grit, and he wants to dominate people. I mean, he enjoys blocking. He brings that George Kittle mentality to where he cares more about pancaking somebody than catching a pass. He takes more pride in it. He loves dominating people like that, being the aggressor and all of that type of stuff. He just needs to work on his technique blocking wise, but he definitely has the size, strength, athleticism, and the mentality to be one of the best blockers in the league. He's arguably the best blocker in this tight end class. In my opinion, he's the best blocker, but he also projects to be one of the best blockers at the NFL level as far as tight ends go. And then as far as pass catching goes, he has experience at attacking all levels of the field. He can attack vertically, he can attack underneath. I mean, Dayton had him all over the place doing everything. And he doesn't have the biggest hands. He doesn't have the most desirable sized hand with 9.5-inch hands. But he is a sure catch. Once it's in his radius, he's getting it. He doesn't have the size of the hands where it looks like he's just plucking the ball out the air and stealing it from people. But once it hits his hands, he's caught it. And he's also an aggressive catcher, which means he goes and gets the ball. He doesn't try to catch it with his chest and bring it in. He goes and gets it and secures it, which is for some reason something hard for even wide receivers to learn how to do if they don't already do it. It's just something hard to teach for some people, and he already has that. Also, the main thing with him is that he went to Dayton as a quarterback, so playing the tight end position is relatively new for him. So everything we've seen is just like a taste of what he's going to be. He has so much untapped potential. He definitely has the highest ceiling out of all of the tight ends in this draft class, and that's what I like most about him. But at the same time, he's also, in my opinion, the best blocker. Now, it's not a big gap between him and the guy I think is the second best blocker. It's really neck and neck, who I also have us getting later in this draft pick. I'm going to talk about him later. But right now, we're talking about Adam Trautman, who brings so much untapped potential, but he also has the floor of being a great blocker, especially once he gets his technique right with his size and just thirst to just dominate people when blocking them. He definitely has a nasty streak when it comes to blocking. So that's his floor, potentially a great inline tight end, but then he also has this receiving potential that's just ridiculous. I mean, like I said, Dayton used him everywhere on the field. Underneath, in the middle, short, all of that type of stuff. I mean, he was the guy that went and stretched the defense, took the lid off the defense and all of that type of stuff. Once he improves his route running, he could bring a lot of what Jordan Reed brought to us in the passing game, but then he can also be that consistent and dominant blocking tight end that we haven't had in forever. And the Redskins definitely need a red zone target, and he checks that box easily. But even just beyond that, even outside of the red zone, he could bring a little Travis Kelce to the Redskins offense. I know Scott Turner would love to have him in the Air Coryell. Dwayne Haskins would love throwing to him. He's another can't miss guy because of his blocking potential, but then his receiving potential just makes you want to go get this guy possibly even in the first round. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of teams out there that are more willing to go with the safer guys like Cole Kmet before they go with the Adam Trautmans, just off of the fact that he played at a smaller school. But if I'm looking at him as a projection, I could easily see him being the best tight end in this class. But I can also see how other teams wouldn't be willing to take a project like him. And that's the only reason I feel like he may make it to the third round. If the Redskins somehow acquire a second round pick, I want us to use that on Adam Trautman. I mean, he can literally solve our tight end problems for the next 4 to 5 years minimum. Like I said, he can bring that Jordan Reed type of receiving option impact in the passing game. And he can also bring a level of blocking that I can't really even make a comparison for as far as the Redskins go, because we haven't had a dominant blocking tight end in a long time. So just imagine all of that in one guy. especially in the 3rd round. I mean, he could literally be the Terry McLaurin of tight ends, in my opinion. So that would be back-to-back big home run hitters in 3rd round picks in consecutive years. Terry McLaurin, then Adam Trautman. One of my favorite guys in this draft. If he makes it to the Redskins pick and we take him, I might shed a tear. And in the 4th round, with the 108th pick in the NFL draft, I have the Redskins taking safety Jeremy Chinn, hopefully an Isaiah Simmons clone. I was watching his film and Kyle Duggar's film, and he just popped more. He's also younger, has a slightly higher upside, and like I said, he's more of a playmaker. He just pops more on screen. So between the two, I prefer Jeremy Chinn. But both of them are just freak athletes. Definitely apex athletes. Like Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, Kyle Duggar, Jeremy are all pretty much in the same company as far as just being the most athletic guys in this draft, especially defense-wise. He's 6'3", 221, and ran a 4.45. He had 20 reps at the bench press. He had a 41 vertical jump and a 138-inch broad jump. He can bring you that same versatility that Isaiah Simmons is projected to have just off of athletic ability. Can play pretty much any position on defense other than defensive line. He's pretty good in man coverage with room to grow once somebody coaches him up. He's a very willing and sound tackler. His ball skills are crazy. One of those guys that just has a nose for the ball. And one of the things I like the most about him is that he's very aggressive against blockers. I mean, he attacks them and sheds. He's not one of those guys that just sits there and accepts getting blocked. He's trying to make a play at all times. He's already good in man coverage and can learn to be excellent once he's coached up, because all of his problems just come from his awareness and instinct. He's a small school guy, went to Southern Illinois, so he played against smaller competition and wasn't really challenged much mentally. So I'm projecting him to go to the NFL and get coached up and gain that awareness and instinct that he needs to be a dominant chess piece for any defense. He can play free safety with his athletic speed and range. He can play strong safety with his sure tackling, ability to attack and shed blockers. He can play corner if you need him to with his good man coverage skills, and him being 6'3" and being very fast with great closing speed. He can lock up the small shifty guys. He can lock up the tight end. He can lock up the big receivers. He has the athletic attributes to be able to cover any type of guy on offense. The small shifty guys, the big strong guys with a lot of length. He matches up well against all of those, just like Isaiah Simmons. A lot of people are projecting him to basically be like a bigger Harrison Smith, which is really good. I mean, for your projection to be a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time first-team All-Pro and a 1-time second-team All-Pro, that's really good. But if a team is able to coach him up and to get his awareness and instincts better, then you could potentially get an Isaiah Simmons in the 4th round. That's the only reason he'll make it to the 4th round. Teams believe that he may not be able to reach that potential that he has. But even without him reaching that potential, he could bring you a Harrison Smith level of impact on defense with more versatility. But literally the only things keeping him from being Isaiah Simmons is IQ, awareness, instincts, and all of that type of stuff. With NFL experience and NFL coaching and all of that type of stuff, especially under Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, I believe in them to be able to take a project like him, improve his instincts, his football IQ and all of that, and turn him into Isaiah Simmons in the 4th round. I actually think it's pretty likely that they could get that out of him. And having a chess piece like this on defense just isn't fair. With Chase Young and Montez Sweat and that defensive line's pass rush, having somebody where the defense don't know what he's doing could be very deadly and turn into a lot of interceptions. I mean, you won't know if Jeremy Chinn is covering the slot receiver, if he's responsible for the running back on a wheel route, if he's running free safety this play, if he's running strong safety, if he's responsible for the outside wide receiver this play. Offenses won't be able to predict what our defense is doing because Jeremy Chinn can pretty much do it all back there. And I'm not saying he will be Isaiah Simmons, but if Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera can get him to mentally catch up to Isaiah Simmons, then they can definitely have an Isaiah Simmons out of the 4th round. And if there's any defensive coaching staff that I believe that can get that out of him, it's them. Not saying they will, not guaranteeing it, but it is possible. And like I said, if he's not Isaiah Simmons, you're still pretty much at least getting a Harrison Smith. And in the 4th round, that's ridiculous value. Weeks ago, I thought we may be able to get him in the later rounds like 6th or 7th, but as we're getting closer to the draft, guys like this stock starts to rise. Even though with the whole coronavirus and quarantine and teams can't meet with players and watch them do things like the pro days and all that type of stuff, somebody with his freakish athleticism just pops on tape. And right now, that's all scouts really have to go off of is tape. So his draft stock is probably rising by the day. And if we want him, we're gonna have to take him with that first 4th round pick. At the very latest, at this point. So if Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera can get his consistency up to par, his football IQ, then we have Chase Young and Isaiah Simmons in this draft so far. Don't want to sound too optimistic, but it's definitely not impossible. You're crazy if you say it's impossible. And then with the second 4th round pick we have, 142nd overall, I have us taking tight end Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son. Love him as a tight end prospect. First of all, the thing that pops on screen the most is how willing and dominant of a blocker he is. I mean, he acts like blocking is his breadwinner. He blocks with a lot of aggression. He already has the technique down. So bringing in a very dependable blocking tight end is already just a plus at this point. But then he also has the best hands out of this entire tight end class, period. As far as the ball touching his hands and him securing it, him going to go get it out the air, he is the best red zone target in this draft class because of his sure hands and his ridiculous catch radius. He's able to box defenders out in the red zone, make tough catches, and he also already knows how to tiptoe at the boundary to get both feet in bounds, which is something really difficult to learn how to do. He already has that. He's literally the best red zone threat tight end wise in this draft class, period. And then you add that with his already great blocking, then you have one of the safest tight end prospects in this class. The only thing is that he's limited athletically. That's what super makes him not his father. He has potential to grow because if he learns how to run routes better, he can still be a deadly pass catching option, especially with his large catch radius and the most sure hands in his tight end class. But athletically, he is very limited. He's not about to take the lid off the defense like Adam Trotman. He's not about to get all kinds of separation with his speed and agility like Adam Trotman. But if he learns how to run routes better, which I believe he can, then he can literally just be a better blocking Austin Hooper, in my opinion, with better hands. That's the best way to describe him. He's Austin Hooper with better blocking, better hands, if he learns how to run routes better, which is very possible. He's limited athletically like Austin Hooper, but he's also stronger. His hands are better, his catch radius is better, and he may be a better separator, but it's all going to depend on how well he's able to learn how to run routes, because his athleticism is very limited, just like Austin Hooper's. But instead of paying Austin Hooper all of that money that the Browns paid him, you can go get Thaddeus Moss on a cheap rookie contract with our second 4th round pick. And even though he is limited athletically, he does have smooth and flexible hips, which is why I believe once he mentally gets down how to run routes better, I'm expecting him to actually be a really good route runner. His hips are definitely flexible enough on tape to project him to being a good separator at the NFL level. The only problem is just his speed. But again, the thing I like the most about him is how great of a blocker he is and how sure his hands are. But the thing that's most important to me is how sure of a blocker he is. He's already very polished and aggressive and very strong. He's going to come in day one and already be the best blocking tight end on our team. The only reason I consider Adam Trotman potentially a better blocker than him is just because of his athletic upside. But day one, Thaddeus Moss is the best blocking tight end on the Redskins, point blank period. But then you add his sure hands and large catch radius, which makes him potentially the best red zone threat on our team day one, regardless of position. And then if he's able to learn how to run routes better, it's over with. But at the same time, like I keep saying, he's limited athletically, so don't expect him to just run past people like Adam Trotman has the ability to do. Thaddeus Moss is not going to be involved in all levels of the passing game like Adam Trotman. Thaddeus Moss is going to be limited to short range, medium range effectiveness in the passing game. But if his route running is improved, he can be that 3rd and short automatic first down, that 2nd and goal automatic touchdown, fade route to the corner of the end zone, or in the middle of the end zone, boxing out the guy covering him. Easy catch for a touchdown. He's that guy. And then at the same time, goal line, you can keep him in to block for the running back, because he can block edge rushers very well. And that dual threat that him and Adam Trotman bring will keep defenses on their toes. I mean, in the past, when Jordan Reed was in the game, we were more than likely throwing it because if we ran the ball, his side would collapse. And when Jeremy Sprinkle was in the game, while Jordan Reed and all of them were still healthy, and he wasn't in there because we just literally had nobody else to throw out there, we were usually running the ball, so defenses were able to prepare for us to run the ball and stop the run. Because if we threw the ball to Jeremy Sprinkle, he would more than likely drop it anyway, and it was a waste of a play. But with Thaddeus Moss and Adam Trautman, they won't know if we're running the ball or throwing it. We can run 2 tight end sets and still run the ball very effectively and pass the ball very effectively, which is low-key the biggest thing we've been missing from our offenses over the past few years. Really a long time. Dual threat tight ends change an entire offense. I know they're definitely an offensive coordinator's best friend. They're the best chess piece. They're almost the equivalent of an Isaiah Simmons on offense. I mean, defenses literally won't know what to do with both Adam Trautman and Thaddeus Moss on the field. If we run the ball, they're going to hem up and lock up the edge rushers trying to come in or anybody blitzing from the outside. And if we throw the ball, if for some reason they don't separate from the guy covering them, they're going to easily be able to just box them out and catch it over them anyway. So expect to see us converting more third downs with them two. Definitely expect to see us to turn more of those field goals we used to get in the red zone into touchdowns. Especially with somebody with the arm power of Dwayne Haskins, who puts so much zip on the ball and moves too fast for DBs to really react to it. So that combination is just going to be unfair. And then in round 5, with the 162nd overall pick, I have the Redskins taking wide receiver Antonio Gandy Golden. I feel like Antonio Gandy Golden will have a similar fall in the draft just like Kelvin Harmon. Very solid to very good at a lot of things that you need wide receivers to be great at, but just isn't fast on tape. And then at the combine, he ran a 4.6. And I feel like teams are going to stay away from him in rounds that he deserves to go in just because of his speed concerns, just like Kelvin Harmon, who I believe will end up being a really good receiver for us. And that's why I have us getting him in the 5th round. He's 6'4", 223. The things I like about him the most are easily his hands. He probably has the best hands in this draft class. Definitely top 5. If it's thrown anywhere near him, he's getting it. Crazy catch radius. Sure hands guy. As you can see, those are some of the traits that I like amongst my draft picks in this mock draft. Between Adam Trautman, Thaddeus Moss, and now Gandy Golden, I like sure hand guys. And like how Adam Trautman was missing the ability to just go and pluck the ball out the air, Antonio has that. If it's anywhere near him, he's gonna go get it. Aggressive catcher, takes the ball right out of the sky, wins pretty much every jump ball. He's a great jump ball specialist. I mean, he knows the exact time to jump to get to his highest point, to be able to reach passes that DBs have no chance of even trying to get. You literally just have to throw it up above him and he's gonna come down with it, type of guy. He's probably the best jump ball specialist in this draft class. And he's also one of those guys that's really good at tracking the ball, whether it be over his shoulder, while running, looking back, or when it's going towards the sideline and having to position himself to be able to get both feet down. He's one of those guys that just has a knack for tracking the ball in the air and positioning himself accordingly to come down with the ball, whether inbounds or in traffic. And he's also an aggressive catcher that will come back to the ball once it's in the air. So if there's an underthrow, he's one of those guys that saves the quarterback by coming back to the ball and taking it, even if the DB's slightly in front of him. He'll come back and get it. And not be one of those guys that just be like, well, you know, I ran my route and you didn't throw it to the route. No, he actually goes and makes a play on the ball. Even if the ball isn't accurate, he's one of those guys you can bet on to go get it. Whether it be thrown short, whether it to be overthrown over his head, to the side too far, close to the sideline. He's one of those guys that always makes these weird miracle looking catches. And then he's also a pretty good blocker, mostly just because of his size and length. He's not like a super aggressive, I love to dominate people type of blocker like Adam Trautman and Thaddeus Moss. But his length and size definitely allows him to dominate at times at blocking. He's a little flat-footed at times, so he kind of loses his balance some. But just off of his sheer size and strength, he tends to dominate corners when blocking them. Just moving them out the way or just hemming them up for the entire play. And even though he's not very physical when it comes to blocking, he's very physical when it comes to contested catches and boxing people out. So I love that about him. But then the negatives are definitely his lack of athleticism. Pretty much just like Thaddeus Moss. But for receivers, his lack of speed is more concerning because they truly need to be able to separate, especially to be a quarterback's best friend. He's gonna automatically be a great red zone target with him being one of the best jump ball guys in this draft class, period. Easily top 5. But anything other than 3rd and short or the red zone, it's going to be hard to get him the ball because he's not a great separator. He's not very quick. He's a slightly below average route runner. But his route running can definitely be improved, but he's not going to just magically gain speed. And also, so far in college, maybe this can be improved on at the NFL level, his release is very underwhelming. Like, press man corners can disrupt his entire route, especially at the NFL level where there's more of them and more consistent and more talented versions of them. Corners are going to press man him a lot, and it's going to disrupt his route timing consistently. He is not able to beat press man coverage often at all. Now, the cool thing about him being able to win jump balls so easily is that press man coverage is really not going to be able to stop him in the red zone. All you got to do is just throw a fade route to him in the corner in the end zone, and he'll still come down with it even against the best press man corners in the league. But until you get to that red zone, I'm not saying he's going to be useless until he learns how to run routes better and learn how to release better and beat press man coverage, but I just don't see him being targeted much that first 80 yards of the field because the quarterback won't be able to get a good feel of where he'll be any given route. They won't be able to trust him to be where they need him to be when they need him to be there because he gets hemmed up by press man corners way too often. One of the big things that will help him with his release is to just disengage with people. He gets in hand fights for too long. He'll just be sitting there trying to run his route and doing all of this, but he just needs to learn how to get rid of them and then proceed to run his route way sooner. And then at the same time, like I said earlier, he's not fast, so it's hard for him to really run away from people, at least underneath wise. He's just not very agile. He has some straight line speed, and he can separate just running a straight vertical route, which may catch defenders off guard from time to time. It could be a useful guy to throw bombs to occasionally. But as far as agility and separation, short and medium range, it's a little struggle. You're just gonna have to depend on him being able to box out and jump and catch passes over guys through traffic, rather than him just being wide open. But his lateral quickness and change of direction are definitely lackluster. Right now, they can be improved on, but with his limited athleticism, anything short and medium range, he's not going to be very dependable separation wise. But he can separate running down the field. He has long strides and can pick up speed. If instead of they ran a 40-yard dash, they ran an 80, he probably would have been one of the better people. It just takes him a long time to get his stride going. But as you can see from his 40-yard dash time, he's not the quickest accelerator. But once he gets going, he actually can beat some people deep. But I would love for the Redskins to go and get him, bring him in as an immediate red zone threat. I mean, just immediately surefire hands. Dwayne Haskins will love him in the red zone and 3rd and short. And then just get him to improve his route running, try to work on his agility, and also improve his blocking technique. And then you have yourself a great wide receiver too to pair with Terry McLaurin. With Steven Sims in the slot, Kelvin Harmon being a possession receiver who hasn't reached his potential yet. We'll see how he does. And then you have Terry McLaurin as the #1 receiver that defenses are always going to focus on. You can have Antonio Gandy-Golden out here getting most of the receptions on any given day just off of defenses focusing on Terry McLaurin the most. I feel like Steven Sims in the slot, especially under Scott Turner's offense, which will use him in any way possible, sweeps, reverses, screens, and all of that. Steven Sims will be a guy that will end up with most of the targets and receptions and touches any given game, more than likely. But don't be surprised if Antonio Gandy-Golden is Dwayne Haskins' favorite target some games, just off of his size and ability to just go up and take it from people. And if he can improve on his route running, which is very possible, you could have yourself a sort of CeeDee Lamb type of guy. That's what's separating him from CeeDee Lamb, quickness and route running. I doubt he'll be able to become as quick as CeeDee Lamb, even though CeeDee Lamb isn't just extremely quick. But he could improve his route running mightily at the NFL level if the Redskins just work with him and coach him enough. And you can end up getting almost a CeeDee Lamb type of guy in the 5th round, which is crazy draft value. And then the Redskins don't have a 6th round pick, just like they don't have a 2nd round pick so far. So in the 7th round, with the 216th pick overall, the Redskins will take cornerback Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a big 6'2", 206-pound press man corner project that the Redskins can draft now and give him a year or two. He could bring you a Richard Sherman type of value. He's kind of like an Adonis Alexander that we tried an experiment on, but I feel like he's far more likely to work out. He is a disruptive cornerback. The thing he's best at is disrupting wide receivers' routes. He's great at press man coverage and getting in the receiver's way and hemming them up and disrupting timing and all of that type of stuff. And then even later on throughout the route, he's good at using his length to disrupt what a receiver's trying to do without getting holding or passing interference calls. And he's pretty good at staying on people's hips too throughout their route. And he has some pretty good technique. His size, length, and technique and all of that allow him to recover on wide receivers that sometimes gain separation on him. He doesn't have elite speed or quickness or anything like that, so he can't recover that way. But because of his length and technique and confidence, he's able to close out on receivers and make plays on the ball in situations that a lot of corners won't be able to. And he also has very good ball skills too, which is why I would love to use him in the red zone mostly. When there's 80 yards available for the offense to work with, his lack of speed and quickness may hurt him some, but when the field is short, his length and technique and aggression are able to lock up wide receivers and basically just take them out of the play. Just take them out of consideration at all. He is anti-red zone threat. Tight ends, receivers, anybody. Now, like I said, because of his lack of speed and agility and burst and all of that type of stuff, he's very limited to just an outside corner role, mainly just red zone situations. So he won't be able to move to the slot at any point in time. He cannot keep up with those shifty, great route running small guys. He's also not good at off man coverage because he doesn't have that burst to close in and make plays even when his eyes already see it, which also means he's not versatile enough to move to safe if we need him to. But as far as being a long, aggressive press man corner, he's pretty much your ideal guy. He's just very scheme specific and dependent. But with the pass rush I'm projecting us to have with the players that we've drafted so far, adding Chase Young to that crazy front four that we already have, a press man corner like him could actually be very dominant in this Jack Del Rio defense. And as long as that front four is doing what they need to do, then Lamar Jackson can actually be really effective for the Redskins at outside corner, even outside of the red zone wise. Quarterbacks won't have a lot of time to throw the ball with this dominant pass rush we're about to have. So a press man corner like him can literally bring you like an Xavier Rhodes level of impact, because quarterbacks won't have that long to throw the ball anyway, so wide receivers won't have long to get open. And his ability to disrupt routes and just flat out dominate receivers at the line of scrimmage will be very disruptive and also lead to probably a lot of interceptions for him. He's one of those guys that if he doesn't have a dominant pass rush in front of him, he may get exposed. But with the front four that we're supposed to have, he could end up having a Pro Bowl season with all of the pass breakups and interceptions he's going to get, which is why he could be similar to a Richard Sherman type of impact. I don't think he's Richard Sherman as a player, but he does have the length of Richard Sherman, which is how he can disrupt an offense's game plans. His length can just be in the way, and a lot of quarterbacks struggle throwing the perfect lob over a corner to a receiver. And Lamar Jackson is going to require a quarterback to be very accurate to get it over his head to a receiver anyway. But with a receiver underneath, just like Richard Sherman, he has the length to get in the way and disrupt the pass, even when the receiver thinks he's open. And just like Richard Sherman, he's limited athletically, doesn't have great quickness or speed. But Richard Sherman is more of a zone cover corner with his great instincts and IQ. Lamar Jackson is more of a press man, dominate you at the line of scrimmage and disrupt your route, Xavier Rhodes type of guy. But I'm not projecting him to be Xavier Rhodes at all, because Xavier Rhodes in his heyday was also very quick and athletic and fast. And even after the press man was able to keep up with receivers very well all across the field. Lamar Jackson, after the press man coverage, can use his length to keep up with receivers, and he's pretty decent at staying at their hip. But for small, shifty guys, he will be lost. But like I said, with this pass rush that the Redskins are projected to have, he can have a crazy amount of passes defensed and interceptions, just off of quarterbacks having to throw it fast. And with quarterbacks not having much time to throw it, he's going to be over there disrupting the receiver's route. And the wide receiver is not going to be where the quarterback needs him to be. And that's going to lead to a lot of turnovers. So I'm excited about the idea of having Lamar Jackson in his defense. And at the very least, he will be an excellent red zone outside corner. You're not throwing a fade route towards him. You're just not going to do it. You're going to end up with a similar play to what Richard Sherman did to Michael Crabtree in that playoff game. So even though if fully healthy, I expect Ronald Darby to start at one outside corner, and then maybe Kendall Fuller, Jimmy Moreland, or Fabian Moreau at the other outside corner. Lamar Jackson, especially with this pass rush, if the Redskins realize how much of a dominant route disruptor he is, he could potentially end up starting at outside corner, or at least getting meaningful snaps there. especially in the red zone. His potential with a deadly pass rush is ridiculous. Without the deadly pass rush, like I said, he'll be pretty lost. But with a deadly and consistent pass rush, he could look like the best corner on this team. He might be one of those guys that Pro Football Focus loves. And with the Redskins' final pick in the draft, round 7, 229th overall, I have the Redskins taking wide receiver Lawrence Cager. Now, y'all know I was not going to leave this mock draft without getting at least one Georgia player for my Redskins. I love the idea of having some of my Georgia Bulldogs on my Washington Redskins. And wide receiver, even with Antonio Gandy Golden being brought over, and Thaddeus Moss and Adam Trotman being great receiving options, I still love Lawrence Cager's potential at receiver. And if you go back and look at Georgia's games last year, Lawrence Cager was putting the team on his back some games. I mean, he was literally the offense. I mean, he was literally all we had in the passing game a lot of games. The main problem with him is durability. He has a lot of potential at receiver, but he is just not durable at all. I mean, Georgia was struggling to put up points against anybody once Lawrence Cager got hurt, and he was hurt quite often. They had to super depend on the running game. Once Lawrence Cager got hurt, George Pickens finally started to show a little something. Once he was obviously the #1 target, and the Georgia was just force feeding him the ball. But before then, when Lawrence Cager was still healthy, he was easily Jake Fromm's favorite target. His safety net, I mean everything. The entire passing game ran through Lawrence Cager when healthy. And this is at an SEC level. This is against the best of the best in college. I mean, against Florida, he went crazy. He had 7 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown. And then the next game against Missouri, he had 6 catches for 93 yards. And this is all while he's been hurt. Even the games he played, he was hurt in them. And anytime we were in any type of ugly situation like 3rd and 8, Lawrence Cager was the guy that was getting the ball. And defenses knew it, and they still couldn't stop it a lot of the time. And I believe Dwayne Haskins is going to be way better than Jake Fromm. And Dwayne Haskins would love to have that on his team. Lamar Jackson is the shortest person I've drafted, and he's 6'2". But Lawrence Cager and Chase Young is 6'5". At 6'5", he's very quick and fast for his size especially. He's quick and fast, period, but he's very athletic for somebody his size. Very agile. At 6'5", the fact that he was able to separate from SEC cornerbacks is just crazy. But then even beyond that, he has elite contested catch ability and focus in hands. He can be a very reliable possession receiver for Dwayne Haskins. But with his agility, speed, and overall smoothness, he could actually be a pretty deadly option in the middle of the field. Now, he doesn't have long stride speed like Antonio Gandy Golden, but he is a way better separator in the short to medium range, which is crazy for somebody at 6'5". And it's so weird because when he was playing for the Miami Hurricanes, he looked slow. He was dropping easy passes, but then when he came to Georgia, he suddenly was just this surefire catch guy. Catch anything that came towards him. Big catch radius, sure hands, aggressive catcher, all of that. And suddenly he was just faster, quicker, smoother in his route running, all of that type of stuff. It was weird. Because I remember when he transferred to us, I went to go look up what he did for the Miami Hurricanes, and I was like, I'm not really that excited. I'm glad that we picked up another receiver for Jake Fromm since everybody else went to the draft, bringing him in with George Pickens and Dominic Blaylock and all of them to come up with just some random cast of receivers that we're about to throw out there for 2019. But then he went out there and looked like the best receiver on the team. The film he put out there for Georgia shows that he has #1 receiver potential. His ceiling is definitely higher than Antonio Gandy Golden's. His main problem is just durability. He has the size, sure hands, quickness, and speed to be exactly what we wanted Cam Sims to be, but just even a little bit faster and a better separator. I mean, I don't know where Jake Fromm would be without Lawrence Cager last season. I mean, the Georgia Bulldogs, period. He put the team on his back sometimes. Jake Fromm is going to get drafted a couple of rounds early probably because of Lawrence Cager last season. Even though Jake Fromm did put out a lot of good film in previous years. But last year, Jake Fromm's season, as far as draft value-wise, would have been a lost cause without Lawrence Cager out there making him look good. And Lawrence Cager also, mostly because of his size, is a good blocker. So he's literally everything you want in a receiver, except for durable. If he can stay healthy, he could easily be our second best receiver. Because I'm not going to say anybody has the potential to be as good or better than Terry McLaurin. Because he looked like he's on the way to be a top 5 receiver in this league. Easily top 10. But Lawrence Cager's ceiling and potential are ridiculous. and I'm not being biased as a Georgia Bulldog fan, please just go look up Lawrence Cager. I mean, he was literally the offense for Georgia against SEC defenses. When drives looked hopeless, Lawrence Cager would just bail us out with a big catch on 3rd and long. Or when it looked like we were struggling to get in the end zone and we may end up having to take a field goal, Lawrence Cager would just come up with a big catch for a touchdown. He didn't have a lot of touchdowns, but the ones he had shows that if an NFL offense game plans around his skill set, he could be a touchdown monster, a ridiculous red zone threat. And I want to see him and Antonio Gandy-Golden compete to see who's going to be wide receiver 2, along with Kelvin Harmon, of course. Even though I feel like Kelvin Harmon is going to be, at the very least, a really good wide receiver 3. And then let Lawrence Cager and Antonio Gandy-Golden compete to see who's going to be wide receiver number 2. And the only reason I'm not including Steven Sims is because even though he's going to be in the slot and get a lot of receptions with his great route running and his ability to separate from anybody in this league, but also Scott Turner's going to use him as a gadget receiver a lot, and he's going to be getting a lot of screen sweeps and reverses and all of that type of stuff. So as far as just pure receiving, I want to see Terry McLaurin, and then whoever wins between Lawrence Cager and Antonio Gandy-Golden, Kelvin Harmon and Steven Sims out there. And like I said, Lawrence Cager's ceiling is like almost limitless as long as he can stay healthy. If healthy, Lawrence Cager will be better than Antonio Gandy-Golden easily. Not even close. But the thing is, Antonio Gandy-Golden is far more durable and dependable. So we'll see. I love that matchup in training camp. If we were to take both of them like I hope we do, that would be one of my favorite training camp battles. But to recap, I have the Redskins taking Chase Young in the 1st round to be our perennial all-pro edge rusher for many years to come, future Hall of Famer, striking fear in all of the quarterbacks in the NFC East. Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and Carson Wentz will not be able to sleep well the night before every game. He's going to make the entire rest of the defense better. Our secondary won't have to cover as long, because Chase Young and Montez Sweat will get pressure on the quarterback so easily, consistently, so quickly that the secondary will be able to play aggressive and make plays on the ball. Chase Young can literally make a 65 overall corner look like an 85 overall corner just because wide receivers won't even be able to run routes long enough to expose the corners. Chase Young is going to make this entire defense better, which will make the entire team better. He alone is going to bring enough of an impact to get us more wins every season, just by himself. Because even if teams double team him and triple team him, first of all, he has shown that he can beat it. Not often, but who can in life? Who can in NFL history? But then if teams are double teaming them, triple teaming them, game planning for them, then everybody else is going to be able to eat on the front 4. Or if we send a linebacker to blitz. Chase Young is going to be so disruptive, and he's going to literally be the guy that when offensive coordinators hold team meetings and they start the game plan for the Redskins, Chase Young's name is going to be the first one brought up. It's going to be the biggest one on the board. It's going to be in bold print. Everything is going to be formulated around how do we suppress Chase Young's impact. You can't stop him. You just got to figure out how to game plan around him. That's the level of impact Chase Young is going to have. And he's going to be a double-digit sack guy year 1 immediately. And he's only going to get better and better throughout his career. And then you have the tight ends, Adam Trautman and Thaddeus Moss. Both great blockers with high receiving potential, especially George Kittle. And them two can literally come in and beat out every other tight end we have on roster. I love Logan Thomas's potential with his athleticism. Richard Rodgers is, I guess, technically the veteran on the team. Jeremy Sprinkle got a lot of meaningful snaps last season. And Hell Hinges showed a little something those last 2 games that I'm pretty excited about. But if we bring in Thaddeus Moss and Adam Trautman, all of those other guys are going to be depth pieces. Adam Trautman and Thaddeus Moss will start immediately. That's the level of impact they can have on this team. And I'm expecting a few Pro Bowls between the 2 of them. In round 4, you have safety Jeremy Chin to help ease the pain of missing out on Isaiah Simmons for a lot of y'all who prefer Isaiah Simmons over Chase Young. If you can get Chase Young and an almost Isaiah Simmons clone in Jeremy Chin, that's a win-win for everybody. And Jeremy Chin, especially under Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera's coaching, can end up literally being that versatile chess piece that Isaiah Simmons is. Offenses won't know how to game plan for our defense. They won't know what coverages we're in because Jeremy Chin can basically do it all once the Redskins get his instincts and football IQ up to par. He is freakishly athletic and fast, and a big playmaker with a nose for the ball. But if the Redskins can get his instincts and football IQ up there, it's not going to be fair. I mean, he's already a good man cover corner, at safety. He's a surefire tackler and a great block shedder, which makes him be able to play linebacker very well. I mean, I can't wait to see what Jeremy Chinn would look like in this defense. Even without a dominant pass rush, he would be great. He could literally be a Derwin James, Isaiah Simmons type of guy. And I'm not saying his floor is Harrison Smith, but I definitely feel like he could very possibly be a Harrison Smith with the potential to be a Derwin James and an Isaiah Simmons. And like I keep saying, if there's any coaching staff that can get Isaiah Simmons, Derwin James out of him, it's Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. Especially since Jack Del Rio already used TJ Ward in a safety linebacker hybrid role when he was back in Denver as the defensive coordinator. And the dope thing about Jeremy Chinn compared to TJ Ward, and what makes him more like Isaiah Simmons than Derwin James potentially, is that he can also play corner. Jeremy Chinn has better man coverage skills than Derwin James, which is what makes Isaiah Simmons so special. So I'm sorry for rambling on about Jeremy Chinn, but I mean, I absolutely love his potential. He can literally be potentially Isaiah Simmons for us. It's not very likely, but it's nowhere near impossible. And then in rounds 5 and 7, I have us taking these big 6'4", 6'5" receivers. Antonio Gandy-Golden is the safer prospect and very durable. Lawrence Cager is the higher ceiling guy, faster, quicker, played against more elite talent in college, with him playing against SEC corners and defensive backs and still balling out with a quarterback that isn't that great. I mean, I appreciate everything Jake Fromm did for us, but he's not Tua, he's not Joe Burrow, and Lawrence Cager was still out there balling out, even with defenses knowing that Lawrence Cager was the primary target. So I would love to see a Lawrence Cager versus Antonio Gandy-Golden training camp battle to see who's going to step up as wide receiver number 2 and be the main big target for this team. You can also throw Cam Sims in there, but Lawrence Cager definitely has the most potential out of all 3 of them. It's not even really close. Just go look at Lawrence Cager highlight tape, man. Matter of fact, don't even look at highlight tape because everybody looks good in highlights. Just look at some Georgia game highlights. Like look up Georgia versus such and such, especially Florida, and just look at how throughout a game he's just dominating. So if he can stay healthy, he will definitely be better than Antonio Gandy-Golden, but I also love Antonio Gandy-Golden as a receiver. He's great too, but Lawrence Cager's potential is just unmatched. And then you have cornerback Lamar Jackson, who's a great press man cover corner, but without a deadly pass rush in front of him may get exposed when quarterbacks have a lot more time to throw the ball and allow routes to develop more. But with a deadly pass rush, Lamar Jackson may go to a Pro Bowl or 2 with all of the interceptions and pass breakups he may have. And with me drafting so many red zone threats, I feel like it's only right to bring in an anti-red zone threat at corner to cancel out other teams' red zone threats. And he can easily cancel out a big receiver in the red zone. You're not throwing a fade route towards him. If you try to throw a quick underneath route to the receiver he's covering, his press man cover skills is going to disrupt the route, and the pass is going to end up being inaccurate, or the timing is going to be off, and it could very likely lead to an interception in the end zone. So I love Lamar Jackson's potential as a press man corner in this defense with a deadly pass rush. I mean, he could literally replace Quentin Dunbar's impact. He's not as quick, but he is a better press man corner. And as y'all can see, with this draft and with Lamar Jackson at 6'2" being the shortest guy on here, I'm going speed and length and height. As far as edge rusher, I'm going sure thing with potential. As far as tight end, I'm going sure thing blocking wise with potential and some sure hands in the receiving game. As far as receivers go, I'm going size and sure hands with a lot of potential for speed. And then with Jeremy Chinn and Lamar Jackson, and then with safety or linebacker or corner, whatever you want to consider Jeremy Chinn any given play, I'm going size and speed and potential. And at corner with Lamar Jackson, I'm going aggression, length, and disruptive potential. This draft class will bring length, size, aggression, a mentality to dominate the player in front of you. I mean, this draft class will bring so much grit, athleticism, and size to this team. I mean, there's mismatches everywhere in this draft class that I just drafted for us. And I don't know what you want. I don't know what's going on with you, but I gotta finish this video, bro. I'm almost done. But yeah, man, this draft class can change this team. Even with us not having a lot of picks, like us not having a second round pick or a 6th, we have 2 4s and 2 7s. And most importantly, that number 2 overall pick. We can easily change this team around with this draft class. We can easily solve our tight end problem. We can bring in the elite pass rusher. We can make our pass rush the best in the league. We could have one of the best versatile players in the league in Jeremy Chinn. We could finally run those 2 tight end sets with these dual threat tight ends that will have defenses on their toes. We could finally have the deadly red zone threats with both the tight ends and both the receivers I drafted. And if Lawrence Cager is healthy, he could basically be a taller version of D-Hop if he reaches his potential and stays healthy, which isn't very likely, but a taller D-Hop potential is definitely there. And then I'm adding a corner who can get a lot of interceptions and pass breakups with this deadly pass rush I'm expecting us to have. I mean, I absolutely love this mock draft. I mean, this is my favorite one by far that I've done this year. I like this one even better than the one where I had us getting those extra draft picks in the dream case scenario. And I did so many mock drafts with different simulators like through the Draft Network, Fanspeak, and all of that. And this was my favorite draft, period. I mean, these are instant impact guys with a lot of potential to also be long-term Pro Bowl guys. Maybe even All-Pro, especially with Chase Young. I mean, this could be the draft class that turns this entire team around. And Ron Rivera could definitely make something shake with these guys. And I know I didn't go offensive line, but we brought in a lot of offensive linemen through free agency. And I feel like if those guys don't work out, we'll just go offensive line heavy in next year's draft in 2021. And offensive line is really the only hole on this team that I didn't address. The linebacker group is already deep. We got to see who emerges out of that pile up, out of that skirmish. The defensive line is already set. Adding Chase Young is just going to make it probably the best front four in the league, especially with the rotation we're going to have as deep as it is. I gave us the receivers that we're missing, especially the type of receivers we're missing with the red zone threats. And then Lawrence Cager is the infinite potential guy if he can stay healthy, who would more than likely have gone in the first round and would probably be in the talks with the guys like T. Higgins and CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy and all of them if he just stayed healthy throughout the entire season. And then I added some cornerback depth, especially some aggressive cornerback depth that could really shine with this deadly pass rush I'm expecting us to have. I gave us a safety that can play everywhere on the defense, including corner. So even if we don't trust Sean Davis at free safety, Jeremy Chinn can be that. Since Landon Collins is great in the box but not great in coverage, Jeremy Chinn can be a strong safety that can cover well. Jeremy Chinn, if we're struggling at corner for some reason, whether it be injury or whatever, he can step in at corner. Just the ultimate Swiss Army knife in his draft selection. I mean, we're literally filling every hole that we had with this draft class, except for offensive line. But I feel like we have some good free agency pickups there. And when in doubt, we'll just go load up on offensive line in 2021, where we'll have top 3 cap space and an entirely new draft with fresh draft picks to work with to go get some better offensive linemen. But even so, I feel like the guys we already have may surprise some people. And even though I feel like 2020 is a big competitive audition tryout for a lot of people, with a lot of people being on 1-year deals and us possibly bringing in this draft class, it will be the most competitive training camp we've ever seen. I mean, guys are going to be playing their hearts out on these 1-year deals. Then you have this rookie class is going to come in hungry as ever, especially with a lot of them being super aggressive. I love to dominate the person in front of me type of guy that just loves to impose their will and punch people in the mouth. All of that combined would make this the most entertaining training camp we've ever seen as Redskins fans. And I love the potential of this team. And like I said, even though I feel like 2020 would be a big audition, a big tryout for a lot of people, and a big competition battle at pretty much every position group, I do feel like this team may surprise some people and end up getting way more wins than we expect. Especially with this rookie class I just gave us. I mean, I did my thing. You feel me? But that's the end of this mock draft. I appreciate the view. Appreciate y'all listening to me babble for so long. It wasn't as organized as most of my videos normally are. But I just felt like for this mock draft, I just wanted to speak from the heart and not read off of like my notes and stuff like I normally do. I wanted to have a more go with the flow type of conversation with y'all rather than just reading weaknesses, strengths, what they'll be, and all that type of stuff. I wanted to have more of like a conversation type thing, like I'm live streaming, talking to y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed this format of a mock draft better. And I also hope y'all like this video. If you learned anything, if you liked it, please subscribe for more content. Just because it's an off season and just because everybody's on quarantine doesn't mean the content will stop at all. So many ideas that I still have to come out with It's just a matter of time and getting them done and out to y'all. So please subscribe for so much content that's going to keep coming, even after the draft. But during the draft, I will be live streaming every round, especially rounds 1 through like 5. I'll definitely be live streaming round 1 one day and live streaming rounds 2 and 3 the next day. And then I'm definitely at least live streaming rounds 4 and 5 the day after that. So make sure y'all pull up to my live stream. I'm going to analyze and talk about every pick, not even just the Redskins. So even if you're not a Redskins fan, make sure y'all pull up to my draft live stream. Y'all know I get busy with the film sessions and everything. So y'all know I'm going to know at least a little something about everybody that's drafted. So I'm going to be analyzing every pick as the draft goes down, even beyond just the Redskins. And then after the draft, definitely make sure y'all stay tuned for my draft reviews and everything, and the draft grades and all of that, and the prospect reviews. And then later on down the line, y'all know I'm going to get to those film sessions for every player that we pick. So stay tuned for that too. I love the draft. I'm so excited. I can't wait for me to see what draft class we bring in. I really hope it's this one, but the chances of that happening are very slim, but we'll see. But make sure y'all stay tuned. I appreciate the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.